It's U of L Today on 93.9 The Ville. Here's your host, Mark Hebert.
And welcome to U of L Today with Mark Hebert. We're so glad you're joining us for the show that's all about the University of Louisville. Not necessarily the athletic stuff, but everything else. All the great research and the great faculty members, the programming at U of L. And a lot of times we have students on here, too, who we talk to. And they talk about all the great things going on at their university. So that's what this show is about. We hope to entertain you and educate you a little bit so you're a little smarter when you leave the program. So what's coming up on the show today? Well, what if we could take the power of all the computers in Kentucky school districts and somehow use that power in those computers to do cancer research at the University of Louisville? Wouldn't that be cool? Well, U of L is partnering with a company called DataSeam to do just that, and we'll talk to DataSeam's CEO. But first, the University of Louisville was the first public university in the South to have an LGBT center offering support services for its lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender students. Brian Buford is an associate provost, and he's the director of the LGBT Center at U of L. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Well, it's been an exciting couple of years for you, hasn't it?
It really has. It really has.
Also, the gay marriage and the LGBT Center getting lots of recognition at U of L.
Yes.
All right. Well, tell us what the LGBT Center at U of L is and what it does.
Yes. Well, this is our 8th year. And like you said, we were the first in Kentucky to have an LGBT center. Really, at the end of the day, it's recognizing the fact that students who are LGBT sometimes need additional support, and that creating a safe and welcoming environment takes some training, some active steps, some proactive measures. And so when I was identified 8 years ago to start this center, that's really where we began with, was this idea of support and making sure that students had the resources that they needed, that they knew that this was a welcoming campus, that our message was clear, and that's what we've really focused on. And then, of course, because we want to always be the best that we can possibly be. So our goal was also to really identify and sort of stand out among universities as one of the best places for LGBT folks.
Is this surprising to some people when you tell them that U of L had the first LGBT center in the South? Or maybe it's not surprising to people. I don't know. Is it?
No, I think sometimes it is. Especially people who are not from the South are often, I think, really amazed to hear that U of L and Louisville as a city really has always been a leader. Louisville was one of the first cities in the country with fairness legislation, even before New York City. So the precedent is set. I think that sometimes we're overcoming others' perceptions about what it looks like here in the South and maybe what it looks like in Kentucky. But we're actually, we have a lot to be proud of. We were named this last fall one of the 25 most LGBT-friendly campuses in the country, in the whole country, and the highest-ranked Southern university. So that says a lot about us.
That says a lot about us. It does indeed. Why do you think we need an LGBT center? You kind of hit on some of the points earlier, but some folks would say, well, why do you need a special center for African-American students, for LGBT students, for, international students? Why do you need these special centers just for them? Why don't they just fit in like all the other students?
Yeah. I dream of the day when we don't need those centers, but we know that the reality today is that LGBT students in particular are at high risk, and not inherently at high risk. It's not built into being LGBT that you're at risk, but because of oppression in our culture, because of all the messages that they have received over the years from the media, from church and family, and they're at high risk. So they're at high risk for dropping out. They're at high risk for suicide. They're at high risk for substance abuse, all as a sort of byproduct of that discrimination and harassment. LGBT students are much more likely to end up homeless than other students. So because of that, and because we want all of our students to succeed, but not all of our students start at the same place. When they get here, we want to buffer that and, sort of provide that extra support around them so that they can graduate and be successful and go out and do good things in the world.
We're talking to Brian Buford, who's the director of the LGBT Center at the University of Louisville. What kind of services and places do you have for LGBT students at U of L.
And
are straight students welcome?
Everybody is welcome at the LGBT Center. In fact, we do an event at the very beginning of the year called "You Don't Have to Come Out to Come In," which is really geared, right? It's really a way of saying, look, everybody is a part of this solution, and straight students are great allies and often friends or brothers and sisters or family members who are LGBT. So everybody's welcome at the center. And, we start with support. We really start with buffering and providing that safe place for students. But we also know that that's not enough. So we've really worked hard over the years to have academic offerings. We host a study abroad. We were the first school in the South to do LGBT-themed study abroad. So really just looking across all those experiences that students have. Housing. We have the Bayard Rustin themed housing community, which is right across the street from us here. It's a place where students can live and learn about social justice. And those are straight and LGBT students together, learning about LGBT identity and also about civil rights and social justice.
Okay. Has the mood and the environment changed as dramatically as I perceive it has for gay and lesbian, not just students, but gay and lesbian people in the United States in the last 2 to 3 years?
Oh my goodness, I think so much. It has changed so much. I'm a 27-year employee at UofL, and I was a grad student here before that. And I came out as a grad student here at UofL, and that was 1988. I remember really just not the presence of anything especially hurtful or difficult, but just the absence of anything positive at UofL, that I never heard a positive message. And so, to still be on this campus now, working in LGBT services, to see the difference it's amazing. To have, I think many people my age are still sort of, rubbing our eyes, thinking we really have marriage equality in this country. It's not something I would have predicted, but it's an amazing sort of turning of the tide.
Well, there's a couple things I never thought I'd see in my lifetime: gay marriage and a bridge built in the East End. So,
right.
and both of them are happening.
What else could happen? I know, right? What else could happen?
Well, let me tell you a little bit story about me. When I was in 1977, when I went to Western Kentucky University, my first roommate, and I came from a town in upstate New York. I thought a fairly metropolitan area. But I didn't know, I'm sure I knew some gay people, but didn't know who they were, okay?
Yeah.
Show up at my first day and move into the dorm, and I've got a gay roommate who is clearly gay. We got along great and stuff, but it was a little bit of a culture shock for me, and I really didn't know what I could say, how to act. Is that still happening on college campuses where the straight students aren't real sure how to deal with the gay, lesbian, transgender students?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it still happens. And I'm so glad I didn't know that story about you. I've known you a long time, and I didn't know that was your experience.
Guy's name was David Boone. He was from Evansville, Indiana.
Wow.
Great guy.
It still happens. What we're doing more and more, though, is students are learning about each other. We're helping those students. If they say, I'm not sure I want a room with someone who's LGBT, rather than letting them just immediately opt out, we try to have a conversation and talk about how college is an opportunity to learn about people that you may not have encountered before in your life. So it happens, but we're getting better and better, and all of our allies on campus are better and better about saying, no, this is a value that we have, that we are welcoming and inclusive. So rather than avoiding, why don't you use this as an opportunity to learn about someone who may be different from you, but really is probably a lot like you. And you probably found that with your roommate as well, that you were much more alike than you thought in the beginning.
And you get the sense these days that the students at UofL, they just don't care. I mean, race and sexual orientation just don't seem to be that much of a factor. But there are still, I think, not to buttonhole some folks, but, people and students from perhaps rural areas that are more homogeneous, might be a little bit different than students coming here from Louisville.
Right. You might not have had the opportunity to meet someone who's out, who's proud.
Actively out.
You probably met lots of LGBT people, but
just
didn't
don't
necessarily know it.
Yeah.
And so coming here then is an opportunity, because we really do celebrate all of our students. And that's, one thing that makes me proud of UofL. I'm so proud to work here because we really have been intentional about what kind of climate we want to create for people.
Is U of L that much different from other schools when it comes to LGBT programming?
I think certainly here in Kentucky, we've just been out there doing it longer and further ahead in that way. But now the University of Kentucky has just opened an LGBT center a year or two ago, Northern Kentucky and Murray State. So I have colleagues now across the state and doing great work. But it is a lifetime work. You're changing a culture, and you don't do that on a dime. You don't turn on a dime. You really shift attitudes over time, and by being a partner and being collaborative with people. So it takes time. I think we're going to see, what I found at UofL is that having a center makes all the difference in the world. So I've been so excited for UK to have a center because I know that's going to be the catalyst for a lot of really good stuff there.
I know, you get the sense that the tide has turned in the United States, that gay and lesbians are much more accepted. It's not a big deal. Everybody knows someone in their family who's gay or lesbian, probably, or the neighbor down the street. You got television programs that kind of celebrate gay and lesbian couples. But transgender is a different story. Is that the next hurdle? And how do people that are straight deal with transgender people who are let's face it, that's a little different bailiwick than being gay or lesbian.
Yeah, it's a different experience. And I will say, I think as my team at the LGBT Center looks at where we have work to do at UofL, we've made a lot of progress, but I think there's some really basic services and needs for transgender folks that we still can make progress in. And so we're looking at things like how is gender captured on university forms, and how easy is it to change that gender designation once it's in there? It's currently, challenging. So we want to, wherever we can remove barriers, what is the housing experience for transgender folks? If you think about traditional housing with male and female floors and public showers, and so how are we making our campus accessible and welcoming to trans folks? What benefits are there? Now, I'm really proud that UofL is the first school in Kentucky to extend health insurance benefits to trans employees. We still have to do that for students. And so there's some real work to be done there. And we're at a moment culturally in history where I think many cisgender people who are not trans, are becoming more aware, partly because of popular media and people like Caitlyn Jenner who are coming out. But at the center, we're really sort of digging in deep and looking in all those places to say, what is this experience going to be like for trans folks?
We got about a minute left. We're talking with Brian Buford, who's the head of the LGBT Center at UofL. Anything else you want to one question I didn't ask. What percentage of UofL students, we have about 23,000 students at UofL, what percentage of students would you say your best guess, gay and lesbian? People,
best guess, the old Kinsey 10% is one measure. It's really hard to know, to be honest with you. One, because we don't ask people to identify. So we look at our admissions, forms, and we ask about all other kinds of identity. We know how many people are American citizens. We know male, female,
right.
Racial categories, but we don't ask about.
We really don't know.
We really don't know, and but I think it's more than 10%.
Really?
And I think it's more than 10%, especially if you think about just how complex sexuality is to begin with. It's really hard to say this is a box that people fit into. Mm-hmm. So I think it's, and when people ask me how many students do I serve, I say 23,000 because right. we serve every student. We want every student, whether they're LGBT or not, to grow along that path, to feel, welcoming and comfortable. Just as you eventually, you got there over time, but wouldn't it have been nice if there were folks helping you and thinking about resources that would have served that? All
right. Well, on that note, we'll quit. All right, Brian,
appreciate
it.
Thanks. So good to be here. I appreciate it.
Great. All right. Well, when we come back, kids, computers, and cancer research, they all fit together at UofL. And you're listening to UofL Today with Mark Hebert on 93.9 The Ville.
My name is Lauren Greenwell, and I'm a junior majoring in English and minoring in political science. And one day I plan on attending law school. My U of L is not only a campus, but it's a home. It's a home where I've made countless memories and friendships. It's a home where I've not only flourished as a person, but I've also grown as a student. U of L has given me something that I cannot thank anymore for, is my future. So thank you, U of L, for getting me my own special, unique experience. My own U of L. Go Cards.
This is our time to soar. We are an unstoppable force of innovation and academic excellence, solving the world's mysteries through research, stimulating growth in our community and beyond, and inspiring the next generation of leaders to build a better future for all of us. We are the University of Louisville. Watch us take flight.
My name is Alan. I'm a senior public health major here at U of L. I have to say that my U of L experience has been absolutely terrific. I've received all the support in the world that I could ever ask for. I want every student that comes through these doors of the university to have a similar experience and to get involved and to feel like they are a part of something and to develop their passions and to take that, graduate from the university and contribute and give back to their community. Go Cards.
Welcome back to U of L Today with Mark Hebert. Sitting in front of me is Brian Gupton, who is a huge Detroit Lions fan, and for that we are sorry. Sorry, sir.
And suffer, but we endure.
But I'm a Buffalo Bills fan, so I don't have much to talk about.
Right back at you.
All right. Well, Brian is the CEO of a company called DataSeam, which is doing great things in Kentucky schools and great things for cancer research at the University of Louisville. So Brian is here to tell us what DataSeam is and how that all fits in with the University of Louisville. So, Brian, give us a little bit about what is DataSeam.
Sure. DataSeam is a organization that was founded based on some work that we did back in 2003 looking at opportunities to advance basic research in the Commonwealth that has the ability to create jobs and new industry reflective of a 21st century workforce. What DataSeam does is we actually place computer workstations in some of the rural schools, about a third of the state in eastern and western Kentucky. Those computers address the aging technology concerns and new technology needs for those K-12 schools. But while that's going on, those schools are advancing the University of Louisville's fight against cancer down at the James Graham Brown Cancer Center.
And I think what's the logo you use? Kids, cancer, or what is it? Kids.
Sure.
How do you say that?
Sure. If you take nothing away from today, nail it by kids, cancer, and computers.
Kids, cancer, and computers. Okay. So there's a lot of these computers that DataSeam provides to school systems. Where do you get the money to provide these computers?
Sure. We were originally funded as a pilot project through the entrepreneurship program, startup program at the University of Louisville. And as we decided to grow the idea, the General Assembly, as well as the Cabinet for Economic Development in Frankfurt, has continued to fund this over the last 12 years now.
And how many computers are out in classrooms and how many school districts?
Roughly a third of the state, so 48, 49 school districts total. And at peak, we were at 25,000 computers. So roughly $25 million worth of computers have been provided to these schools in an opportunity that they would not have had that otherwise.
And these are brand new computers. These are Apples, right? Or
brand,
Macintosh, or what are they?
Brand new Apple computers. Many of the students, when we started, had never seen an Apple. Today, Apple's in your pocket, Apple's in your book bag, your briefcase, and also on their desktops. So they're pretty familiar with them now. The amount of technology that we've placed out there. We actually started with a pilot project in my hometown of Princeton, Kentucky, in the western end of the state, Caldwell County. We started with 30 computers. That's grown to 25,000 computers at peak. The grid, these computers that form this computing grid to do the cancer research, it's the largest grid of its kind on the planet.
Well, since you brought it up, I was going to get into how this all fits into cancer research. So how does this all fit into cancer research? You've got these computers out in the school system. How do they feed into the cancer research at the University of Louisville?
Sure. So these computers, I mentioned the term grid. A grid is basically a virtual supercomputer. And this virtual supercomputer allows the researchers down at the University of Louisville's Brown Cancer Center to do virtual-based drug design. So basically, they are developing the next generation of chemotherapy treatments right here in Louisville, Kentucky. Chemotherapy treatments that are more effective for those that are suffering cancer. And as we know that in Kentucky, we have some of the highest cancer occurrences in the United States. Sometimes with some cancers, nearly 2.5 times the national average. And so these computers are helping develop cancer drugs, chemotherapy treatments that are more effective with less toxic side effects and shaving millions of dollars and many, many years off of the drug discovery process, which allows them a more effective means of getting those into patients.
I don't want to get too technical here, but is it when the kids aren't using the computers out in the school systems that their extra capacity can be used by the University of Louisville, or how does this work?
Sure. So it's the unused horsepower. I mean, we tap so little of the computer that we use that we, even your laptop at home or even your phone, they have a lot more horsepower than what we really put them to task, checking our Facebook or reading our email or checking your sports scores on the internet. But these computers actually have a lot of untapped capacity that can do amazing calculations, not only when the kids are on them, not only when the students are on them, the teachers are using them, but also at night. So you're getting the best bang for your buck for that expenditure that's been given to us by the Kentucky General Assembly.
And again, you're not the cancer researcher; you're just the guy that runs DataSeam, right?
Right. Well, it's a balancing act, making sure that the researchers have the capacity that they need. That the university actually also uses this as an opportunity to get in the schools and recruit some of the promising young talent that are in these DataSeam school systems statewide. And to that end, the University of Louisville has provided a scholarship, a DataSeam Scholars Program, and they award 10 of these each year for students that eventually want to come to the University of Louisville to pursue degrees in the STEM field, so science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And it's been a tremendously successful program. There are students here at the University of Louisville who would not have been able to go to college otherwise. And we're making it happen by giving those students who are traditionally from bleed blue areas of the state, they're actually giving the University of Louisville a look. And once they understand what the university has to offer, I'm a University of Louisville grad, so I'm an advocate I'm on Team Louisville. Once they understand
from
Princeton, Kentucky,
Western Kentucky.
I'm very glad that basketball game happens after Christmas each year. But those students are coming here. They understand what the university has to offer. They understand the other opportunities and the scholarships that are available. And they understand what the Louisville community, the city as a whole, has to offer. And they really like it, and they end up staying.
Like you said, it's mostly in Big Blue territory, and most of these school districts are in far eastern and far western Kentucky that are getting these computers from DataSeam and feeding into the cancer research, correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
How many counties was it again? Or how many different school systems?
We're in about a third of the state.
Okay. And John Trent is the main cancer researcher at UofL, correct? That's working with you?
He is. He's our point of contact. He's the guy that it takes a special type of researcher to not only understand the technology involved to do the research, but also the science behind what's needed to happen. So John is kind of the clearinghouse for all of the researchers down there who may understand the science of the cancer research and what they're needing, but they don't have the skill sets to express that within the grid. So John ends up partnering and collaborating with a lot of the researchers at the University of Louisville, at the Brown Cancer Center, as a part of their grants to help them and help their research along. They bring their research to John. Here's what we found in the lab. Can you go put this on the grid and run it for us? And so it's been a good collaboration for them. The grid is an infrastructure piece. When we talk about bringing next generation industry to Kentucky, this is an infrastructure piece that we should talk about, just like we talk about our great airport, we talk about our waterways and our roadways, our inexpensive electricity. This is the type of infrastructure piece that brings researchers here. And the folks that we work with at the University of Louisville many times are Bucks for Brains researchers that were attracted to the University of Louisville for the resources that were available. Using the grid as a part of their federal grants and private grants allow them to be more competitive for additional funds, because when you're making that application using the DataSeam grid, they understand that you're getting that research done faster, better, and cheaper, but also with the community engagement piece, because the researchers actually go out and talk to the students about the research that's going on, talk about the communities, some of these communities that have been very, very much impacted by all types of cancer. It makes a difference for them.
Are there any specific types of cancer that are being targeted by using this? I'm going to call it a supercomputer. You call it a grid. I'm going to call it a supercomputer. Do you know what John Trent is specifically working on, or is it just different types of cancer?
So right now there were 20 different research teams at the University of Louisville that John collaborates with. And in 2014, in carrying forward, those research teams were searching for potential treatments for the following: lung, prostate, breast, brain, pancreatic, cervical, melanoma, leukemia, pediatric, neuroblastoma, and Ewing's sarcoma cancer. So kind of the full boat.
I was going to say, what cancers aren't we looking for using this computer model?
It's easier to discuss the ones we're not looking at.
So a wide range of cancers are being researched, or how to get rid of those kinds of cancers are being researched at the University of Louisville with the help of this computer network.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Is DataSeam looking to expand into more school systems and to have more computers, or is the funding not there to do that?
Well, we are. Right now we've been funded each 2-year period by the General Assembly. There is always an opportunity to grow the program. As we said, that it's taken us about 10 years to expand to about a third of the state, and we have tremendous partnerships with these folks in the state. We're just as welcome in their communities as they are here, and we've made them fans as well. They show up every once in a while wearing red jerseys for events, so that's a win too. But yes, we're always looking to do this. We think that this is a tremendous opportunity for the university to expand their reach into our Kentucky public school systems and attract some of the best and brightest to Louisville to grow this science-based industry.
All right. Brian Gupton, any final words from DataSeam that you want to stick out there?
Go Cards, go Lions.
Well, maybe it'll be the Bills and the Lions in the Super Bowl next year. What do you think?
I won't hold my breath.
I won't hold my breath either, but that would be a good thing for the two of us, right?
That's right.
All right. Brian Gupton, the CEO of DataSeam, thanks for stopping by. Appreciate it.
Glad to be here.
All right. Before we leave you and before we wrap up the show, we always try to do a Did You Know segment, something about the University of Louisville that you didn't know. So here's your bit of trivia for today. Did you know that in the last semester here at UofL, the fall semester, that there were students from 82 different countries and 115 of Kentucky's 120 counties at the University of Louisville? Obviously, not just a university for students from the Jefferson County and surrounding areas anymore. So that'll about wrap up the show. Reminder that you can hear all of the podcasts of these shows at soundcloud.com/UofL. Thank you to Metro TV, the government access channel for the city of Louisville, which is airing some of these programs. And thanks to you for listening to UofL Today with Mark Hebert on 93.9 The Ville.